anything. Hi, I'm Lorraine Sesh, a Step Up demonstrator here in the US, and I'd love to share with you this fun technique. Today is Valentine's Day, and I thought I'd do something fun, kissing and smooching, but with your stamping products. So wait till you see these fun techniques and things that you can do with them. Stay tuned. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and come back and watch some more of my videos. I've got a lot of them up there that you might enjoy. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. Just reach out to my blog, sign up for my newsletter. You can shop on my online store 24/7. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. So in the meantime, enjoy kissing and smooching, and happy Valentine's Day. Hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so for Valentine's Day, we're kissing and smooching. So first thing, we need a solid stamp that has nothing on it, no design, just very plain. If you have some two-step stamping stamp sets, sometimes that second piece that doesn't have the detail on it can also work like this as well. So I'm going to start with the watercolor shapes, and then we'll move on to this a little bit later. You also need something that's a little bit more detail. Okay, so I'm going to use from On the Horizon. This is a wonderful set that comes with beautiful designer series paper. You can see this is the first time I'm using this stamp here. Haven't quite put that all together yet, but I love the grasses here. And I'm going to be using the detail of this with the background of this. Anyway, so this is the concept of kissing in the stamping world. You first take your solid image and you're going to use a lighter color for the background. So I am going to try, let's try Mango Melody. Okay, and we're going to ink that up. Okay, you want to make sure it's inked all the way around. Now, when you see these watercolor shapes, don't think your stamp isn't working properly. It is supposed to be a little faded on the inside. Okay, that weathered look, that watercolor look. So don't think it's your ink pad. Don't think it's your stamp. Don't think it's you. It's just the way it's supposed to be. So even when you ink it up, it might look like it's not inked up in the middle there, but it is. Just the outside is darker. Okay, so then you would take your detail stamp onto the memento. And you'll also notice that it's going to come off in a reverse image than if you stamped it this way, because you're stamping onto something else and then flipping it, so it's actually going to be in the reverse direction. So keep that in mind when you're designing your card. Okay, that's a little bit more inked up, as is this. Okay, so they're together, they're kissing. Okay, you can see that's a little bit better coverage there. And again, I forgot to take my little foam mat out. Okay, yeah, see, if I had my foam mat, it would have covered that a little bit. It would have come out a little bit more clear there. And we're going to, this time, take soft sea foam, Just Jade. I've never used those two colors together, believe it or not, but they were really pretty. I was very surprised. Well, not terribly surprised, but I was very pleased with how it came out. I'm going to take a little frond there from Artfully Layered. Okay, this is in the new mini, and so I'm using that piece there, and we're going to kiss this onto the rectangle from the watercolor. And this is going to make for a really simple card. Okay, now this has the rubber on it, so I don't need the foam, but I'm going to keep that handy for if I need it again. Okay, so we're going to ink that up as the background. And then open up Just Jade. And we're going to stamp this in the darker color because we want the lighter one to be our background. Okay, so that's nice and inked up there. Okay, this has some variation in the shading as well. So just keep that in mind as you're stamping. Again, it's not that you've inked it up wrong or stamped it wrong. 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, now they're ready to kiss. Okay, so we have that. I'm going to put this on top. Keep it together. Might want to just leave it on your table. Okay, and we're going to take that off. And I'm going to stamp it right down here, sort of in the bottom left corner. And comes off really pretty like that. Okay, so you might say, well, why not just stamp this first and then this over it? Well, the square kind of contains it. So yeah, you could if you want it hanging off, which could look very pretty too. But if you're looking for something, you know, where it's sort of like looking through a window, or it's all one piece, it looks like one stamp. So that's what you can do with that. So let me close these up and I'll show you a finished card. A layer of Just Jade underneath, and I punched out my couple of punches there because that will not be seen. If I hold it up to the light, yeah, it will be seen, but once it's down on my next layer, it's not going to be seen. So now I have a couple of spare labels that I can use on something else. You can see I put dimensionals on the back there to raise up this layer from the base, which is soft seafoam, and tied some baker's twine around there in the crumb cake. And if you could see, I frayed the ends a little bit just to make it look a little bit more natural. My thank you, I cut from the same set, the Artfully Layered, and then I fussy cut around it. I layered that on another small scrap of black and then fussy cut around it again, just to give that little bit of an outline. Raise that up on the dimensionals. And my little dots here are unfortunately retired, but these are the 2022 in colors. They'll be gone in when the new catalog comes out. So if there's anything you like in those colors, grab it now. These are round dots, but they do have these in squares this time in the annual catalog. So these same colors, but they're square dots this time. So, but I had a lot of these left over, so I want to use the round ones on there. And so that's real pretty there. So I will peel those off and add that onto my card there. All right, so simple, right? Clean and simple look, and I love that. I'm going to use the All Squared Away. I'm going to use this as my detail on the flowers. Okay. So I'm going to take I'll take this one. It's a little bit more interesting, a little more pretty flower. Okay, and then we'll take one of these squares. Let's take, these are a little different. These are a background and the other things show through, but we're going to try just stamping. I'm going to not even mount that. No, yeah, I will. Never mind. Put it on a block there. Okay, so what you can do is you can even just ink this up and then stamp this onto it to make that like your ink pad. So I'm going to take Melon Mambo. So you don't even need the two colors. If you want just a funky pattern on here, you can do that. So we can ink this up. It's going to be a little lighter because it's kind of like second generation, but you can press that onto there, and I'll get a scrap here, and then you can stamp that down, and then you've got a cute little pattern on your flower. All right. So either way, so it's either two colors or use something with a texture pattern and just stamp onto it. Have them kiss, and then you'll have that little pattern on your stamped image. Okay, so that's the kissing part, and I'll show you more cards I made with that later. Okay, you'll have to watch to the end of the video to see those. Okay, so for the smooching, this is where you can either use your ink pads or your re-inkers to create different watercolor looks. So this is where you're going to ink up either some wax paper or clear acetate. You'll get different effects from each one. And then smush your card stock onto there, where you can use it as backgrounds or punch it out and get some cool effects that way. Something here. All right, so I'm going to I'll first try the wax paper. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep hitting that. I'm just going to pull off a piece for now. You'll get slightly different effects. The wax paper is a little bit easier to clean up because you can just scrunch it up and throw it away. The acetate, you'll have to kind of wipe off a little bit. That's why it's nice to have some baby wipes handy. Okay, so different ways you can ink up your wax paper. You can use your re-inkers. So I'm going to just put a few drops of re-inkers on here. A few drops of ink refill. And I'm going to kind of go for a sky and sand look here. So I'm using Crumb Cake and Balmy Blue. I'm going to do Crumb Cake down below. And let's see how this works here. You need a spritzer. Stampin' Up! Sells these in packs of 2. You can use, I have a different bottle that I use for my water bottle, you know, just this old thing. But this has a heavier spray. So if you really want to spread that around, make it more watery, that's okay. But I like using this one. It's a little finer mist, and I have more control with that. You can always add more water. It's hard to take it away if you've done too much. So you can hold it up high. You can hold it a little closer and smush those around. And once you press your paper onto there, it's going to smear even more. Now, there are 3 kinds of paper that you want to do for this smooching technique. You don't want to use regular vanilla or basic white. The shimmer paper is good. It has a little bit more texture and holds the water a little bit better. And the glossy paper is good for this. It's hard to see on the camera, I know. And the watercolor paper is good for this. Now, this is old watercolor paper. They call it like Fluid 100 now, I think, in the annual catalog. Okay, so you'll get different effects on each of these. Okay, the watercolor paper has a little bit more texture to it, more canvasy look, and the shimmer paper, like it says, has that little bit of shimmer, but it does absorb the ink nicely. The glossy will hold the ink, but it will spread around a little bit more. So it's I'll show you different effects on each of these. All right, so I am going to try the shimmer paper first. All right, so we have our colors here. If you want, you can smush it around, shake it around a little bit. Then I'm going to just lay this on top and just kind of rub it a little bit. And be careful because, as you see, it could seep out of the side, depending on how much spray you put on there. And then, so you just smooch your paper right into there and then lift it up. And look at that pretty design you have there. All right, so this is where you keep your paper towels handy. You can just blot extra where it's pooled, and it could also give a little bit extra texture. All right, so just that little smooch of ink. Now there's some here. I'm going to do the same thing with my glossy paper. I'm going to smooch that onto there. And this will be a little more runny on the paper. You can see, well, obviously it's lighter because there's less ink on there, but it just kind of slips around a little bit more. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, and we can do it again. When it dries, once it dries a little bit, you can do more layers and it will not all blend in and mush together so much. So you can always go back and do just a little bit more. All right, and we'll spray it again. Now I want those little dots to run a little bit, because I did try one and I didn't like the way it came out because the dots didn't spread out quite so much. So you want to kind of be careful with that. But I'll find something to do with that. Maybe I'll go over it again now that this is dry. I did this about an hour ago. So it's all dry. Maybe I could go over again and add more splotches so that those little dots just don't pop out as prominently. Okay, so I'm just going to go over this one more time. And spread a little bit. You can lift it up and look. All right, I see I could use a little bit more brown down at the bottom, so I'm just going to go this way. And the crumb cake is kind of light, so anyway, that has a very interesting look to it. So I'm just going to blot that a little bit. Okay, it might not look so sand and sea-like, but it depends what you put on it, right? Okay, another thing you can do once you have that, I'm going to use this one as my demonstration model. See, I'm going to just tear this, put that away like that. See, it has gone through, so make sure you have, I have lots of layers of paper here, and also I have a glass top, so it doesn't matter if water goes through. I can clean that up later. You can also, once you have your ink on here and it's dried, you can put other drops of water on there. So you can use a paintbrush, or you can use one of your water painters to squeeze some water on there and put additional drops of water so that it almost lifts the color up. So I'm just going to try with, well, I have my water painter here. So you can flick some extra water on there. I'll do it on the darker color so that you can kind of see what happens. Okay, kind of let it sit there for a minute. And then you can blot it up, and it gives a little bit different color then additional to that. And if you let it sit for even longer, it could even come out as sort of a white look, kind of like what I did. Where's my other one? Okay, so this kind of effect here. Do you see those white dots? That's where I dripped extra water after it was dry, and it made it lighter, kind of spread the ink a little bit more. So, and brought out the white that got covered over before. All right, so again, this came out a little splotchy, but I'll find something fun to do with that. All right, so just experimenting with different things and different textures. Okay, now if you want a little bit more, okay, this is a very spread out look. If you want a little bit more controlled look than all of this, then, oh, by the way, you can always take your heat tool to go over this to start the drying process. All right, to dry it a little bit quicker if you are anxious, but definitely make sure it's very dry before you actually stamp on it. So my idea for this one with the sand and sea was to maybe add some seashells, a little bit of grass, and then you can put that on a nice card base, maybe maybe the blues or whatever. So I'll put that together and show you what that looks like. So that's my thought on that one. And another little thing you can do, okay, if you're using the acetate, you can use your reinkers, and they will spread around a little bit more than on the wax paper. But you can also use your stamp pad. So if you don't have a reinker in a color that you think you want, just use your stamp pad. So let's try some Mango Melody. just open it up and just sort of drag it and pat it onto your, I'll put it over here so you can see better. Pat it onto your acetate. Now, in your stamps, when you get new stamps, you get, especially the photopolymer, you have 2 layers of the acetate. One really thin for the top and a thicker one for the bottom. The new stamp cases are made so that you can put the stamps right onto the case. And this is another thing I wanted to mention to you guys. It comes like this. All right. And then you can put the stamps on here and then cover it up. For some reason, I found that when my stamps are closed, sometimes I like to look through the back and make sure they're all there before I put it away, but you can't because this is in the way. I kind of like to see through that. So what I did was I cut this part off and put it on the other side. And I'm sticking my stamps to the left side so that when it's closed, I can see through and know that everything's there. Okay, it's just kind of a thing that I found that was a little annoying. I just found myself looking, okay, do I have everything? And I couldn't see it. I had to open it up and check. So one little hint that you might want to try. Okay, so back to this. So we use the Mango Melody, and we're going to use pumpkin pie. And you want to start with your lighter colors first. If you're going to put your ink pad up here, if you're going to overlap a little bit, do the lighter one first, because if the darker one touches, then it's not so bad. Okay, so ignore what's over here, and you can see we have those 2 colors, right? I hope everybody can see. I don't know if I'm off camera or not. Okay, and then we're going to do a little brown on the bottom. Okay, going with some kind of fall colors, I guess. All right, so this is the soft suede again. Okay, I'm just dragging it on there. Okay, so here now you can see I have all those 3 colors, right? Now we're going to spritz it and smooch. Okay, and I'm going to hold my spritzer kind of high so it doesn't spread too much. I just want to get some little, kind of like little speckly look to this one. All right, and I'm using the shimmer paper again here. And I'm just going to press it down. Just lightly press it. I don't want to smear it too much. I want a little bit more of a speckly look. And if you want, you can flip it over and see what it looks like. See? And then I'm going to peel that off. Okay, so it depends on how you smear it and the paper you use. You know, the glossy, as you can see. And I use a little bit more ink on these. They kind of smeared around a little bit, looked marbly. And this one has a little bit more texture to it. Then if you wanted, you can also, I'm just going to wipe this off and show you another little way to go about it. You can take one color, smudge it on there, spray it, and then notice I put little washi tape handles on here. I saw another stamper do that, and I thought, oh, what a great idea. It makes it easy to pick that up. Okay, so I have my paper. You can use this sort of like a little stamp and hold it up, and you can just kind of touch it around. You can see right through the acetate where your little specks are. So you have a nice little splotchy look there. Okay, so you're still smooching. I'm going to wipe that off and go to my next color. Especially once this dries, then you'll get very distinctive looks of the 2 patterns of the splotches there. And then we'll do a little of the pumpkin pie. Okay, spritz high from above so that you don't get too many smears. You get a little bit more concentration of color. Okay, and just kind of touch it to your card. I saw somebody say, like butterfly kisses. So now you're kind of doing layers. So they're not all smearing together like this one is. So, all right, and so on. If you want to add a third color, that would be fine too. But definitely before you do anything, let it dry. And I like to just pat it a little bit where it might be pooling up because I don't want it to run. I just want that splattered look. All right, so then another quick little idea. I won't keep too long here, but you can take some saran wrap, some plastic wrap. Of course, I'm down to the end, and it's hard to keep that end up there. Has a little strip there to hold it, but it's not as sticky anymore. Okay, so I'm going to take a little piece of saran wrap, and I'm going to put it down on my paper, and I'm going to purposely crinkle it. Okay, so I'm going to scrunch it up. I'm going to purposely crinkle it, and we're going to put our ink on there. So I'll use Pacific Point just because it's really dark and you'll be able to see the effect. So we want it crinkled to get that crinkly look when we're stamping. Okay, and it's okay if it sticks a little bit or pulls up. You can always get it back down again. All right, so then we're going to smooch our card stuff onto that. Just happen to have another shimmer white here. Just press it down on there, and you'll get a totally different effect. Pull it up. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? So that could be really neat effect too. Again, you can do different colors if you like. Mix or match them, whatever. I'm going to flip this over and show you just a little something different to do because it's okay if that's messy down there. You can try to make lines here too. You can kind of fold these, make accordion folds to your plastic wrap. I know it's hard to see, but you'll see the effect. I'll do this one in Melon Mambo. Okay, so you might get some lines that way. Look, there's tapping. They're doing work next door. Okay, so I've inked that up, and then we'll smooch right onto there. I'll use the glossy paper this time and just rub it on, and then peel it off, and then you've got some lines. All right, want to add to that, I might want to bring some over there, just lay it down again, and then do some more on the other side. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting look as well. So nice thing with the plastic and the wax paper, you can just throw it away. Then if you want a little bit more control, I'm going to go back to the acetate one more time. And if you take one of your blending brushes or a dauber and cover it with saran wrap, because the saran wrap will not absorb the ink, whereas the brush will. And I want to just kind of splotch on there. So let's do, I don't know, a little granny apple, I guess, because it's here. Okay, I'm going to just wipe this on here. Again, just because it's handy, more handy than the re-inkers right now. So I'm just going to pick up some of that ink there. Maybe I should use a re-inkers. Well, this is kind of working. Okay, I'm going to spritz it a little bit, make it easier. And just going to pick that up. So if you want a little bit more control as to exactly where you're coloring, you can use this or your sponge dauber because the other way, you kind of never know what's going to happen. You know, you could smear it, you can just speckle it. You can get different kinds of effects. Right, and you'll know exactly where that's going to be. All right, so several different ideas there. Or you can even just take your saran wrap, clump it up a little bit, and do it this way as well. All right, so lots of ideas for kissing and smooching, and then I'll show you what I do with these later on. All right, so happy Valentine's Day. And oh, here's one that we did a long time ago. Some of my longtime stampers will remember we took bubble wrap and inked over the bubble wrap and then smooched that onto our cardstock, and it kind of looks like bubbles for the fish, right? So that was kind of fun. That was a fun idea too. So look for different textures or different things you can do, and you'll get all those different ideas. So I will have all this information on my blog once we're done with the video. And so look at all these different designs that you can get. Okay, so these are the ones we did just now. And this one. Okay, so I thought that came out really pretty. With the moisture, it will curl a little bit. So, you know, you might want to work with it as it's drying to flatten it out a little. And of course, once it's adhered down, it will be just fine. All right, but I thought that kind of looked pretty with the seagrass coming out there too. All right, so thanks for watching, and stay tuned for, ooh, that looks pretty, right? Stay tuned for what I do with all of this.